Hi everyone, welcome to today's installment of robotics. We're going to get started right away, so let's head on over to vr.vex.com. Today we're going to be working on the Castle Crasher playground, so let me open that up for you. And what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and create an algorithm, which is a series of repeated steps that will knock off as much of the castles as we can. Let's take a look at the Castle Crasher environment. While that's loading, so here it is. So this is a spam risk. This is a view of the Castle Crasher thing. So you can see that they built these little castles for us. They're made of blocks. And notice one other thing, there is no boundary. So your robot will roll right off the table if you let it. But there is a red border on the ground so that we can use that red border maybe to control the perimeter for the robot. So I'm going to hit back to the overhead. And I want to take a look at some of this. So I want to just, I don't know, let's see what happens. I'm just going to drive forward for 800 millimeters or even just for 2,000. Let's just see what happens. Let me turn the speed up a little bit so we don't have to wait quite so long. And then let's just run this program and see what happens. Boom. Okay, so things get about, whoa. Things get knocked over and then the robot disappears. Okay, so not a great approach. So the idea is we want to try and knock these off. So one thing I noticed that when I hit it, notice how this huge splash happens. That hit so hard. So I'm actually going to take this back down to 50 and just rerun this program and see what slightly slower does. Now that's interesting. So right away we've got 3 blocks off just by changing the speed. So this will be one of the challenges where maybe 100% velocity isn't always a good thing. So yeah, let's get at it. So one thing we want to do is be able to tell where things are. There's kind of a couple ways to do that. First of all, there's a camera on the front of the robot. This thing is still falling. It's the 4,000 millimeters now. And there's also 2 bump sensors, or, oh man, I can't think. Buttons on the front of it that tell if it bumps into something. So there's 2 bumpers in the front, a left and a right. So we've got those ways of being able to tell stuff. Let's see how those work. I'm going to reset this thing. And let's give it a drive forward command. And then let's tell it to wait. And we're just going to see how these things work. So we're just going to try some stuff out here. Wait until the front eye is near an object. Once it shows that it's near an object, we're going to tell it to stop. Let's see how well this works. Okay, so not particularly well. So it's still showing up that it's not even near an object, even after it's crashed into them. So it looks like, while this should work, I don't see why it wouldn't work. It sure as heck doesn't. Because it should wait here until it's near an object and then it should go to the stop driving one. So, okay, that's out. Let's see if the bumpers are working. Let's say, so on the same wait until. So we'll say drive forward, wait until, I don't know, which one? Left bumper is pressed, and then stop. If this doesn't work, I think there must be something wrong with the way I'm thinking about the code. So let's see if this works. Same format as the other one, just with the bumpers instead. Okay, there it goes. It was a little delayed, which is kind of weird. So maybe the camera hit first. Let's reset that. Play it one more time. Let's watch it from behind. It's a weird angle. Yeah, so it takes a bit of a part of a second to get the signal, run it through the brain and then tell the motors to stop. So that's not that unreasonable. So at least now we know we have something where we can make it stop. So that's kind of cool. Or at least we know when we've hit something, I should say. Because what might be nice is that when it's running around the white before it hits something, that it's going really fast so it doesn't waste time. And then when it hits something, maybe we could slow it down so it does a better job of pushing instead of just bashing. But first of all, we need to figure out how to keep it from falling off. So to do that, we've got to notice this red barrier here. And so we have to be able to build an if loop. We're going to come over here and grab an if. And we're going to say if the front eye detects red, instead of front eye, we're going to want the down eye. So we're going to do the down eye detects red. What we're going to want to do is stop driving. Stop driving. And actually, I'm going to put a drive forward up here at the beginning just so we can start driving forward. So this says if it detects red, stop driving, and then turn right for, I don't know, 110 degrees. Let's see how that plays. Okay. So now when it detects red, it should stop driving. Oh, but it didn't, it died. Now remember, when you use an if statement like this, it gets evaluated directly after the drive forward statement. So it starts driving forward. A split second after it stops driving forward, it says, does the down eye detect red? The answer is no, because it's right here in the white area. So that it skips this code, comes down here, and just sits there doing whatever it was doing last, which is driving forward. So this won't work unless we have a forever loop zipping around, doing it over and over again. So let's do that. Let's pop in a forever loop so it's always rethinking it. So we've got to drive forward, and then it hits a forever loop and constantly looks to see. Every split second it looks to see if it sees some red. So let's refresh this and see what happens. All right, we got 3 blocks off. Oh, it's all red. It turned. All right, awesome. So now it's going back through here, and it doesn't see red. And the last thing it had was stop driving. So it's just going to sit here repeating this loop of not seeing red, not driving, not turning, not anything. So it's going to just keep going around, skipping this code every time. So to get this to work better, maybe we take the drive forward command and put it inside the forever loop. That way, after making this turn, it'll come back up, drive forward again, and then sit and loop around, driving forward every time. Whoops. Driving forward every time, looking for more red. So let's see what that does. Reset that play. So looks like we're still getting 3 blocks off the first time. So that's, oh, good turn. Nice. Next one. Nice. Missed one. Hang in there. So, and there goes our robot. Uh-oh. So that is very problematic. We fell off within the first few. So to keep us from falling off, it looked like when we started making that turn, the left wheels, when they made the turn, just turned right off the edge of the table. So maybe instead of making a turn right away, we need to back up a little bit because we know where we came from is safe. So if we go straight back after seeing red, we should be able to make a turn. So let's add that in here. So instead of drive forward, let's do drive backwards. So we stop driving, we drive backwards. I don't know, 150, 200 millimeters. It's not that far. It's a big number, but the millimeters are really small. So that should take care of that. And maybe instead of turning the exact same every time, we want to put a random number here so that we turn kind of, differently every time. We don't fall into a pattern of covering the exact same spaces all the time. So maybe pick a random number. 110 looked pretty good, so I'm going to go 100 to 170. I don't know, whatever numbers. And let's try that. So still getting those first three. It's pretty predictable. Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't quite get it that time. Now notice how slow we're going. Now notice how different that turn was. So the first turn was, the second turn was more turn than the first one. And this one now, all right. So we let this go long enough, it should be able to clear the table because it's on a forever loop. Now here's the problem, is that we're going really painfully slow. So I wonder if we can find a way to build in some speed in between, and then when we feel the bumper get pressed, we can slow it back down. So let's see if we can't figure that one out. So here at the drive 4, this is when we haven't touched anything yet. So at that point, why not have 100% speed? So set drive velocity to 100%. And then we can say, and well, let me add some comments in here so we can keep track of what all this is. So this if statement below keeps the robot on the table. So remember, that's what this if statement is for here. And let's add another if statement and say what to do let's add an if statement that says, pull all of this out. Whoops. Well, let me try and build it outside of that. Because what I want is an if statement that says, if we bump into an object, then slow down. So let's go here and say, if the left bumper is pressed, set drive velocity at 50%. That'll give us a more controlled push of the blocks instead of bouncing them all around. We'll probably get more blocks off the table faster if we do it this way. And then we need another one of these for the right bumper because there's two of them and maybe the right side hits and not the left side. Right bumper. And let's pop those two in here. And you can see once you fill up the insides, it stops trying to grab around all the other ones. So it makes it a little easier to press if you build them outside. All right, so let's refresh. Let's try this. So we start off really fast. And it looks like, oh, we slow down a little bit, but then we speed right back up. So that's problematic because it looks like we're not really, like right there, it ignored it. So here's the problem again with these if statements. Is that when it evaluates it, remember the bumper is going to bash into something and get pressed, and then it's probably going to like clunk against it as it pushes it forward and not keep it pressed the whole time. So when this comes through the code very rapidly, if it's not actively being pressed at that moment, it ignores this code. And even if it doesn't, it goes here, it says if it's pressed, it goes to 50%, but then it sweeps through this code and changes back to 100% right away. And unless it's being constantly pressed, it won't do this 50% again. So you get this haphazard, slow down, not slowed down kind of thing where, you know, you're really actually driving really fast. So if statements actually aren't a really good solution here. What we want to do is use a block that uses a repeat until block. So what we want to do is say if the bumper is pressed, right, or when the bumper is pressed, repeat until something happens. So in this case, if the bumper is pressed, that means we've hit something. We want to slow down the speed until we push the object off the table. And then we want to move on from that. So let's do it this way. Let's pull out this 50% nonsense here. And let's put a repeat until block in there. And remember, if the left bumper is pressed, that means we've hit something. What do we want to do? Well, we want to drive forward at 50% velocity. So I'm going to set drive velocity to 50%. We're already driving forward, so we should be good there. And then we're going to repeat this. Well, let's finish it up. Drive velocity 50%. And maybe that's enough. Then we're going to repeat this until this down eye detects red. So again, we're going to do it until we get to the edge of the table. And once we're there, we should have pushed off. And then I'm going to do this one. Pull that out. I think I can get it to grab around this one. And yes, right there. So I just did the same thing on the left and the right. Let's refresh this. So right now, let's go through what our code does. So first of all, we set our drive velocity to 100% really fast. We drive forward. We say if the bumper is pressed, right? So if it reads a pressed bumper, set the drive velocity to 50% and keep it there until the down eye detects red. So bump into it, slow down, and push until you see red. At that point, it's going to leave this. It's already done the if statement. It's going to go to this if statement. Nothing will be pressed at that point. So it skips this one. And then it hits this one, and it does see red. So it should stop driving, drive in reverse, and do our turnaround code right here. Now, it may be because during this time when it's reading this code, it's still moving forward. So this might not be fast enough to use. Let's see what happens. I'm curious. So you can see there, see how it's going fast, but then not fast sometimes? That's just a matter of when it hits something. See how it bashed halfway through them before it slowed down? When it hits something, where it is in the code to detect if this bumper is pressed or not. So it's not able to do the code fast enough to constantly look for it. Sometimes it misses that code. But that's not terrible. Like that's working out okay. Uh-oh, poof, goner. All right, so that's the gist of our activity today. And I want you to keep playing with the code, come up with better ideas, different ideas, trying to get as many of the blocks cleared off as you possibly can. Different ways to use repeat untils and forevers. Also, and the while is also another possible loop to use in here. Just think through what you want to do. I had more success with some different organizations. I put some turns in here as well. I did some of this kind of stuff inside these blocks. So just play around with it. Try and get as many blocks cleared off as you can prior to your robot falling off. And what we're trying not to do here is create a way of knocking the blocks off that, like just having it drive in a particular pattern every time. It'd be nice to be able to have it be kind of a randomish kind of thing. Think kind of Roomba, like a destructive Roomba over something that has an exact pattern every time for the same stuff. All right, well, hopefully you'll enjoy this project this week. When you're done, just submit it to Teams. Remember, you need to try to submit a photo, picture or a screenshot of your code and the robot's motion. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do this. Let's throw in a pin down. I should have done this to start with. That way we can just see the track of the robot and see where it's gone. All right, have a great one, my friends. Work hard and do smart things.